this takes us to Oklahoma, because if Oklahoma Republicans are able to pass a newly proposed bill, every public school classroom in the state will be forced to display a copy of the Ten Commandments. This is apparently how the GOP plans to improve the education system, ranked number 48 in America, according to US News and World Report. This is the bill I'll share with you here. It was just proposed by Jim Olsen, who is a state House member. Jim Olsen says in this bill um, that basically, starting in the 2024-2025 school year, every public school shall display in each classroom of the school a durable poster or framed copy of the Ten Commandments. Let me show you what this bill actually looks like here, because it's kind of amazing how in-depth it goes. Let me make sure you can see this all. But look at this. It says the poster or framed copy of the Ten Commandments required by this bill, it has to include the text of the Ten Commandments. And by the way, I wrote it out for you in a size and font that is legible to a person with average vision from anywhere in the classroom. It has to be 16 inches wide and 20 inches tall. And then he actually says, here's what the Ten Commandments posters have to say. He literally spells it out all the way down here. And I did count, like, it's not like it's 10 lines long, which makes it really confusing to know which the parts are the commandments to this all. But it also says if you don't have a poster or framed copy of the Ten Commandments, you got to accept a privately donated poster or framed copy, as long as it meets all the requirements and does not contain any additional content. That's the gist of what this bill says. So this is what he thinks is good. This is what everybody wants. And I'm going to get to one thing he forgot to mention in his bill in just a second. But needless to say, the whole point of this is to inject Christianity into public schools. There was a federal judge once, a couple years ago. He once said there was a Pennsylvania public school that had a Ten Commandments monument outside the building. And the judge said, wait, that's all you have outside the building? That's totally illegal. And what that judge said when he declared it illegal was, there is no context plausibly suggesting that this plainly religious message has any broader secular meaning. And I think that applies here too. Like, you can't make an argument that this is good for the kids. There's nothing in the Ten Commandments that suggests it is secular, that they're promoting universal values. This is a Christian list written for Christians, just beginning with the very first line, which, again, as you could tell, not just look at the line, the Ten Commandments, I am the Lord thy God. He didn't just put that in the list. He literally capitalized the words, I am Lord. Like, that is nothing if not Christian grammar right there. You know what I mean? So there's no secular argument you can make on behalf of this. It's an endorsement of Christianity. Obviously, the government has no business telling students what religious rules they ought to live by. And it's not like this list has a purpose. Like, what is the educational benefit of telling kids they can't have any other gods before the one true Christian God? Or that they can't make false idols? Or that they can't take God's name in vain? Or that they have to rest on the Sabbath? Or that they can't have sex with people they're not married to, which is a weird thing to tell kindergartners, apparently. Like, if you saw that in a children's book, these conservative Christians would want to ban it. But now they want to put that line in every classroom in the state. Like, why do kindergartners need to be told not to commit adultery? And who are the teachers who are asking for this? None of them. No one needs this in the classroom. No one is saying, man, math class would be so much easier if only these kids knew that in the back of the room was a poster saying, thou shalt not kill. That would stop all the school shootings. Because if there's one thing we know about the shooters, it's that they love to read. Like, so it's not just a dumb idea, it's illegal. And it's especially appalling in Oklahoma because just 5 years ago they had a massive teachers strike. This is from NPR. Even saying 5 years after the walkouts, Oklahoma's GOP has changed its tune. There was one passage I wanted to show you here. Look at how things have gotten worse and better in some areas. Oklahoma's record breaking teacher shortages have gotten worse. Emergency certifications have more than doubled since the walkout. And the state almost quadrupled its use of adjunct teachers in the 2021-2022 school year. Those are teachers who are not held to any state requirements when it comes to teaching certifications and college degrees. They have these teachers who are just not trained to be in the classroom, but they need bodies in there. Teachers saw some pay increases and increased classroom funding over the last 5 years, but Oklahoma still ranks in the bottom half of all states when it comes to pay, and per pupil spending is still among the lowest in the country. And all of that's to say, if you're a teacher in Oklahoma, I mean, bless you, you're doing amazing work. But also, what they need is not what this Republican legislature is giving them. They need better pay. They need more help. They need to make it easier to get people certified so that they can be in the classroom and that they know what they're doing in the classroom. What they don't need is another dose of Jesus in their classroom, because why the hell would that help anybody? It wouldn't. So it's just a pointless bill just to make life worse for teachers because some of them are going to protest it. Some of them don't want it in their classroom. It does nothing of value, but this is the best Republicans offer because they don't want to actually fix any problems. They exist as a party to make everybody else's life worse. That's the ethos of the party. And I should say, as far as Oklahoma goes, the state, I should say, the judiciary and the voters, the people there, have actually been decent on this matter. The legislature sucks, but the people and the judges have not been. And I'll give you a quick rundown here. Oklahoma had a Ten Commandments monument outside the state capitol, but the state Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional in 2015. So what did Republicans do? They tried to pass a constitutional amendment to get rid of the line in the Constitution that said we should do church-state separation and you can't use taxpayer money to promote religion. That's what the Supreme Court cited in the state to declare that monument unconstitutional. So legislators tried to pass an amendment to get rid of the church-state separation clause, tried to get rid of the Blaine Amendment in their constitution. What did voters do in 2016? They rejected that change, which was the right move. That's amazing. Good for them. So what did Republicans do then? They tried passing a law allowing displays of historically significant documents outside public spaces. So that would include the Ten Commandments, but also like the Magna Carta. And that bill just didn't go. It passed in the state house. The state Senate just didn't take it up. I don't think they wanted to make it an issue after they got whooped in 2015 and 2016. So, good on the voters, good on the judges, kind of good on the state Senate for just not doing a damn thing. Because in Oklahoma, if the Republican Party doesn't do anything, it's a win for the people of Oklahoma. So you would think, if you're a Republican in Oklahoma, the last thing you would want to do right now is just blatantly shove Jesus into every classroom, push your religion into every school. But no, this idiot, Jim Olsen, is just going full speed ahead with it. And it makes no sense whatsoever. A couple notes about this. Jim Olsen, here's what he's best known for in Oklahoma. He has sponsored bills to punish doctors who provide abortion care to women. He wanted to, wait for this, he wanted to reduce the penalty for people who unlawfully carry weapons. He thought we were too lenient on them. He also wanted to ban the teaching of the 1619 Project, which is the New York Times series of articles about how slavery was kind of foundational to who we are as a nation, which is true. He didn't want people knowing about that, so he wanted that banned. He also, this is appalling, he cited the Bible as justification. Let me back up for a second. In Oklahoma, they were thinking about passing a bill that would ban corporal punishment, spanking, paddling, slapping, specifically on disabled students in schools. And he came in, Jim Olsen, and said, no, you guys, we still got to be able to hit them in schools. Why? Because the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. He used the Bible to fight to hit kids with disabilities in schools because Jesus told him to. That's the sort of dude we are talking about here. And what's also scary is, if any of you have followed the news in Oklahoma for a while now, they have a state superintendent of public instruction, like the superintendent of public schools. His name is Ryan Walters, and he's a Christian nationalist. And he's all on board with shoving Jesus into schools. This guy, Ryan Walters, has already helped approve the nation's first religious charter school. There's a lawsuit over that as we speak. Ryan Walters promoted the use of PragerU material in public school classrooms, which is right-wing propaganda. He formed a faith committee to help tell the legislature what to do about religion. Guess what? That faith committee only had conservative Christians on it. And you know what they said the schools needed? 10 Commandments. And now Jim Olsen is acting on that recommendation. That's not to say every Oklahoma lawmaker is insane. There are 3 awesome Oklahoma lawmakers in the state. One of them is this Democrat, Mickey Dolenz, who said this on Twitter /X/ whatever the hell this site is now called. Oklahoma lawmaker Jim Olsen, who cited the Bible on the House floor to justify the spanking of children with disabilities, has introduced a bill that would mandate the display of the 10 Commandments in all Oklahoma classrooms. State-endorsed religious indoctrination is unconstitutional, idolatrous, which violates a commandment, violates parents' rights, and contradicts the teachings of the deity he claims to worship. Dolenz went on to say, and I love this too, Christian nationalist politicians believe they have divine authority to enact laws based on their interpretation of the Bible, forcing their religious beliefs on society. This is unconstitutional, exclusionary, and dangerous. By endorsing a state-sanctioned religion, they undermine the foundational principle of religious freedom upon which the United States was built upon. Yeah, that guy gets it. That's fantastic. And again, that's an Oklahoma lawmaker. Yeah, he's a Democrat, and there's only 3 of them left in the state. But there are people fighting the good fight. I just wish there were more of them. Another thing I wanted to point out here is that Jim Olsen made a big mistake. I told you that he specified in his bill, you have to make the posters this particular size. It has to be legible to an average visioned person, from a distance. So you can't try to give me a size 6 font and hide it away. He also said, here are the words. I wrote them out for you. You got to include this stuff and you can't include anything else. So he's taken care of covered all his bases, right? No. You know what he forgot to say in there? The 10 Commandments has to be written in English. He forgot to say that. And there is an activist in Florida, his name is Chaz Stevens, who's been really good about catching those mistakes. He actually shared with me a poster he made for another state. This is what he plans to share with Oklahoma classrooms if and when this bill passes. That is legible. That poster, when it's modified a bit, it would fit the rectangle you need. It's just written in Arabic. That would probably piss off a lot of conservative Christians, but it would follow the law if the bill becomes a law. Chaz also shared with me one other poster that he's excited about. This is also the 10 Commandments. I'll take my face out of this. This is also a 10 Commandments poster that Chaz created that fits all the rules laid out in that bill. But as you could see, he highlighted just a couple of fun words for himself. Hey, kids, you need a reminder of the 10 Commandments? Here, let me tell you what you should remember. Kill, adultery, steal. Thanks, Christians, for making that happen. So those are courtesy of Chaz Stevens. We'll see if he actually does have a GoFundMe where he's raising money for these posters. He's trying to make them now in case the law passes. I'm going to share that link in the comments in case any of you are inclined to donate. But again, the law has not passed yet. It's just a bill right now. It may pass in the Oklahoma House, but again, I don't know what the Oklahoma Senate's going to do, even though it's a Republican-dominated majority there. So we'll see. And the last thing I just wanted to bring up about this story is that you may recall that Texas actually tried to pass an identical bill to this one last year. And there was a fantastic Democrat, a Christian named James Tallarico, who tried his damnedest to call out the hypocrisy of the Republicans who are pushing for this Ten Commandments bill. And if you Google his name, James Tallarico, when it came time to talk about this bill in committee, he actually pointed out, I'm going to share this with you here. Candy Noble was the name of the Texas Republican who was sponsoring this bill. He said on there, I just want to walk through a couple. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Are you aware the legislature is scheduled to meet this Saturday? And the Republican said, I am aware of that. James Tallarico says, so that would be violating the Ten Commandments. I contend that that is, you're right. Thou shalt not kill. Are you aware the legislature has refused to outlaw the death penalty? Like, he just went down the list one by one and pointed out how their own legislature, the Republicans in the legislature, already violated all these commandments. And that's before you get into, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, which, hey, some of those Texas lawmakers are already in the news for scandals involving that. What about the idea that the Ten Commandments posters are a form of idolatry? Doesn't that violate a commandment or two? I mean, there's a bunch of secular reasons you should not have the Ten Commandments in public schools, but there are some good lawmakers who are pointing out all the religious reasons you don't want it in there either. So I don't know. I don't know if they'll succeed in Oklahoma this time around. The Texas bill did not become law. That also kind of passed by the wayside, but you never know. So in Oklahoma, we will see what happens. And if it does pass, there are malicious but lovely ways to provide counter arguments to it in the classroom. And I'm sure students will figure out even more clever ways to deal with it. One thing I did find amazing before we wrap this up is that nowhere in the proposed bill from Jim Olsen, nowhere does it say what the punishment would be for a teacher or a school that did not comply with the law. You would think they would say, oh, if your school doesn't do it, we're going to take away any state funding for your school. There's nothing like that in the bill. Not that I want to give them ideas, but I'm saying if there's no punishment, there's really no incentive for teachers to go along with it. So we'll see about that.